Tonight, the secret struggle of the man described as one of the greatest fullbacks ever to play for Wales.
It's all happening. Lee Byrne!
But whilst the challenges he faced on the pitch are well known, few are aware of the difficulties he encountered away from the sporting spotlight.
I remember one of the players saying that I was lazy, I wasn't learning, and but obviously it was a reason because of my dyslexia. So
now speaking exclusively to ITV Cymru Wales, he opens up on television for the first time about the condition which shaped his entire career.
While he was very aware of the complications his dyslexia caused, even Lee didn't realise how it may have actually helped improve his rugby skills.
So you had it on two sides. You had one side making it more difficult for you to learn the codes and things, and the other side giving you your main skill.
Yeah, in a way, I suppose it was a gift for me.
In just a few days' time, Wales will be consumed once more by Six Nations fever for the final weekend of the tournament. It's one of the highlights of the rugby calendar, creating heroes and villains on the field of play and legends beyond it.
We had some characters, myself, Gavin Henson, Shane Williams, James Hook, Mike Phillips and Alan Wynne-Jones, to name a few. At the time, was playing the best rugby in my career, really.
But Lee's road to success was not easy, and he very nearly missed out on the career he has since become so well known for.
I'd done an apprenticeship as a carpenter because I left school with no qualifications, and working away in London all the time was the only choice I had really as a job. I had to give up rugby from the age of 16, and then sort of came back and thought, you know, I could really give this a go. I think I've got a talent, and it's the only way really I'm going to make something good with my life. Missing all the age grade rugby and not getting professional till I was 23. And I never expected my wildest dreams to play for Wales, but let alone winning the Grand Slam in 2008 was pretty special for me.
Now retired from rugby, Lee is working with school children, both with and without dyslexia, to raise awareness of the learning difficulty which he kept hidden throughout his career. And for the first time in his life, he is now speaking openly about his past and about how his dyslexia affected him both on and off the field of play.
You'd go on a field with 20 plays as a backline, you know, and I wouldn't know. I would be more worried about going on remembering where I had to stand on the field than worrying about the game.
One of the drills I want to see it try.
The coaches, you know, when I was playing for Wales, sometimes get a bit annoyed. You know, you're in the wrong place again. So I didn't. But that was my fault because I didn't actually, you know, confine to the coaches and say, look, you know, this is my problem and I need a different style of learning.
Good pace.
I always knew that there was, you know, obviously I was behind the sets and the forms that you get put in school. I was always on the bottom class, so I obviously knew that I wasn't, you know, say, the brightest.
Let's attack his inside shoulder. Unlucky, hands out.
But as he's grown to understand the condition, Lee has realised having dyslexia doesn't mean he's stupid, and now he wants to share that awareness with others.
You need some kind of role model, and you know, if I could be that help to somebody, and if I can talk to other kids, and you know, not to be like me who hide it away. You know, there's plenty of people, Richard Branson, and you know, these entrepreneurs who have dyslexia and you have made great use of it. Get on with it, and you can make something of your life.
Around 300,000 people in Wales, that's 1 in 10, have dyslexia. It's defined as a learning difficulty, which affects reading, writing and spelling, but it's also linked to other problems with processing information and attention span. The causes of dyslexia can be many and varied, as can the way it affects an individual.
We like to sort of talk about these as like categories. You've got dyslexia or you haven't. It's on a continuum. So some people will have some mild or less severe difficulties.
Some people will have reading problems, some other people will have spelling problems, some people might have reading comprehension problems, so each individual might have a different pattern of literacy-based difficulties.
The brain is divided into two halves, left controlling functions and logic, right associated more with our creative side. When reading and interpreting text, most of us use the left so we can logically process the information. But the right side dominates for many people with dyslexia. That means a high proportion of dyslexics might work in sport or the arts. It's even been reported that as many as 40% of self-made millionaires in the UK are dyslexic. Like many people, Lee was diagnosed late in life, only finding out he had the condition 4 years ago. Today he's on the way to Cardiff to meet the woman who tested him, dyslexia advisor Anne Rees.
It'd be nice to talk to her about it again and see her and see how everything's going on and what's going on there now. And yeah, there's plenty of questions I want to ask.
Hi, nice to see you again. Welcome back here.
Thank you.
Come on through.
It's the first time Lee's visited the charity Dyslexia Action since his diagnosis.
What's really interesting, and it's quite typical of an adult, is that your single word reading, do you remember just reading a list of words?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Was average. It's fine.
Yeah.
And so is your spelling.
Yeah, one-off words.
But when you had to read them in a passage,
I'd skip words.
then you found it much harder, you read less accurately.
As well as complications with literacy and numeracy, dyslexia is known to have links to an individual's ability to process information and to their short-term working memory.
I hadn't thought of working memory and rugby being linked, but as you think about it, because there's so many sort of set plays, aren't there, and line-out codes and so on.
Well, taking like 20 a game in, and
I
can't process them quick enough to, you know, obviously now miles away.
Yeah, that's why.
I was quite lucky. I had Jamie Roberts inside me, and he's a doctor, so his working memory is probably like that.
But I think, equally, probably some of the things you were really good at in rugby were also because of your dyslexia.
Yeah. Because
you're very good at judging things in space, weren't you?
Yes. I could see space before it happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know how would that come into that?
It's not measured in this, but it's a characteristic that's often found in people with dyslexia. And spatial skills are quite typical of dyslexia, good spatial skills. But there was also a dynamic thing.
Yeah.
Because everything was moving, wasn't it? And now most people can't do that.
No. Well, no.
And so, a lot of it will be practice and hard work on your part. But I think there's probably dyslexia played a part in that. So you had it on two sides. You had one side making it more difficult for you to learn the codes and things, and the other side giving you your main skill.
Yeah. It was nice to come back, and first time obviously I've got over the scores and where it was the weakest points and strongest points and everything. And it does make a lot of sense to me, really, you know. Yeah, it was interesting that, you know, the speed of thought of processing stuff was the lowest, which it was, you know, doing a call on a field that I couldn't process it quick enough. Then obviously I could see space quicker than anybody else. So, you know, it was in a way, I suppose it was a gift for me.
So welcome, Lee.
Celebrating the positive side of dyslexia has been the driving force behind the creation of this, the Tomorrow's Generation Learning Centre in Lisvane in Cardiff, where Lee is visiting a class today. It's one of only a few places in Wales which offers dedicated independent support and encouragement for dyslexic children.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Darcy's ready.
Steady. And go. Now help each other. Fionn, do you want to go by here? There we are.
The style of learning that we have here is multisensory, so we use every possible channel to help the learning arrive at the children's level. We use activity, sound, vision, textures, colours, everything we can possibly try, to help them learn.
Well, I tell you what, that was fantastic teamwork.
Nobody
well
looked.
done.
Nobody looked
so,
either.
Let's see. You happy with that before I check?
We work to raise the children's self-esteem because usually by the time they've arrived with us, they've already experienced failure, and it can have a big effect on them that, you know, lasts right through their education and the rest of their life possibly.
The centre works with local schools to support each of the children's learning needs.
And then on top of that, we try to teach strategies for learning. For example, different ways that you can learn spellings, different ways that you can tackle your reading and your writing, with the idea that the children can take that straight back to their main school and start showing improvement there straight away.
After the break, the children who have learned to live and cope with their dyslexia each and every day.
I don't let it define me because there's so many aspects that make a person. It shouldn't just be the one that they can't do.
And the scientists trialling a new device to one day help diagnose future dyslexics in Wales.
We are mapping what is called the reading pathway of each individual.
Ex-Wales fullback Lee Byrne has struggled throughout his life with a learning difficulty that until now has been hidden away from the public eye. Now Lee speaks openly for the first time about his dyslexia. He was only diagnosed 4 years ago after his time at French club Clermont-Auvergne revealed difficulties learning a new language.
We had, I think it was 10 boys, obviously, having French lessons together. It started off quite simple, you know, everyday language on the street and etc. And then it went on to verbs, nouns, you know, all this. And I didn't know this in English, so I had to wait till everyone left, told the teacher, you know, about my problem, and he was great. So then I used to have one-on-one with him then, but I didn't tell them. But and then there was a couple of times where, you know, I would go out and then the French players would say I weren't picking up French very easily. I remember one of the players saying I was lazy, I wasn't learning, and but obviously it was, you know, it was a reason because of my dyslexia. So and that's all quite upset me a little bit.
Despite only being diagnosed quite recently, there have been signs of Lee's dyslexia since his childhood.
I was always sort of in trouble in school and stuff like that, and attendance was quite poor. You know, I was scared to actually go into the classroom and put into the lowest set, you know, obviously the lowest class, the special needs class or whatever you want to call it. I just thought, you know, what is the point of me being here? I'm not going to achieve any GCSEs, I know that. And I thought, yeah, I'm a naughty kid that doesn't want to learn.
Since his diagnosis, Lee has been active in trying to raise the profile of dyslexia in Wales and attended the opening of the Tomorrow's Generation Learning Centre in Cardiff, run by an entrepreneur who himself has dyslexia and is using the experience of his past to make a difference to the future of others.
I used to hate school. You know, school for me was the worst thing ever. Sadly, there are tens of thousands of people, in particular myself, who have spent a good part of my grown-up adultship being extremely concerned and worried that people will find out that I'm dyslexic and I don't really understand what I read.
We have concussion tests in rugby, and one of the things that I got petrified about was it was just a routine test. You have to do the alphabet in a room with the doctor and then read it backwards.
Yeah.
So what I done, I cheated and wrote the alphabet backwards on my hand. So when I could get the concussion test, I was just looking at my hand. So because I was too embarrassed to tell the doctor that, you know, I didn't know the alphabet backwards. It was hard enough. I've known the alphabet forwards. And I was sat in that lesson with Debbie, and she, you know, was starting to. Was a verb, and now even that feeling came back to me of like, oh, I'm not really sure of this, you know. And it was great to see the kids, you know, probably knowing more than me than at that age, you know. And it was really interesting today.
Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday.
We need to change this, shall I say, bad label that dyslexic kids are stupid. They are not stupid. We are not ashamed to say that we are dyslexic. As I said before, I'm proud, and I think Lee is proud too.
I think now, yeah.
At Uskall Friars in Bangor, we meet student Zoe Wood, whose dyslexia was identified in her early childhood. Like Lee, it has had a notable effect on the way she reads and processes information.
It makes it seem as if the words are bouncing about, but they're not. It's white behind the words in the gaps that flash. I'd have spelling tests in primary school and I'd learn the words before the test, the day before, 10 out of 10. Next day after, you know, totally gone again, and I could just get like 2 out of 10. And it's ridiculous, and that's the frustrating thing. As I've got older, it's easier because you just learn that, you know what, it's okay, everyone knows that I can't spell, that I'm not as good as them at spelling, but I can still push my grades up in other ways, and at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. You might as well put more time into learning different techniques and remembering different facts, or, you know, with English, you think, you know, it's not all about the spelling. You could just practice your creative writing and using more interesting language. I don't let it define me, because you shouldn't. There's so many aspects that make a person. It shouldn't just be the one that they can't do, you know.
Early diagnoses like the one that Zoe received can have a huge impact on a child's education and the confidence they have to deal with the condition in later life.
Our ability to identify children who are potentially dyslexic is much, much better. I mean, I did my teacher training in the 1970s, and I hadn't heard the word dyslexic until I'd been teaching for a few years. It never featured as part of my initial education course. There's better understanding, I think, of dyslexia. However, what I don't think we've ever seen is anybody who has come out of a teacher training college with a really good, thorough knowledge of what dyslexia actually is.
Support for dyslexia in Wales varies according to the local education authority, but what is recognised is that on the whole, Wales has seen an improvement in the attainment levels of people with dyslexia. While there's still a debate over the best ways of supporting people with the condition, few would disagree that raising awareness of dyslexia and knowing how to identify it early on can make a huge difference to ongoing education.
Somebody who's in school, who has gone to school, has been learning, has been taught, gone regularly, and is not learning to read, write and spell like the other children, would be a first marker. May not mean you're going to have dyslexia, but may mean we need to just look at and see and identify. And we need to make sure that new teachers in the classroom feel confident of being able to intervene, spot the difficulties, but also intervene appropriately for that individual if they have dyslexia or other literacy-based difficulties.
But the cost of identifying and supporting people can often mean a diagnosis and the right help are difficult to achieve. On a recent visit to Wales, a team of scientists from Greece have been trialling a new device. They hope it will offer a fresh route towards diagnoses. It monitors an individual's reading patterns. That could give an early indicator of someone's dyslexia.
We are mapping what is called the reading pathway of each individual, and we compare this pathway to a big data base of normal individuals. This kind of method will have a way we can say that this dyslexic has this problem in those syllabus or in those words or pseudo words. In other words, we can differentiate and map individually every single individual at a very great detail.
Dyslexia can affect an individual in a number of different ways. So a test like this, which measures reading, may not be absolute, but it could potentially open the doors to new ways of diagnosing the condition.
If you are dyslexic, when you were born dyslexic, you are always dyslexic. However, if you are diagnosed at an early stage, which is 8 to 11 years old, you have a way to be taught and modify your way of learning. After that, it's going to be very, very difficult.
I've had quite a
Lee has come to meet 16-year-old Ben Hunter, an aspiring rugby player from the Vale of Glamorgan. Ben was diagnosed with dyslexia when he was just 7.
I'm so glad that I found out so young, because then I had tactics and strategies to try and work with it. I never wanted to hold me back in a way, so I try to just live with it and get on with it. It's nice to know that people I don't know, role models for me, like yourself, playing for Wales rugby and dyslexic. It shows that it's a bad thing, but it's not going to hold you back too much.
Yeah.
I enjoy sport and I try and do the best I can in it, and I don't know, it's like a release for me, where it's not I'm the worst in the class, or someone tells me to read and I'm just I can't.
Hiding at the back of the classroom sort of thing.
Yeah, type of thing. But in rugby I can I don't know, stand up really and just try and prove myself.
It's a hard word to spell as well.
Yeah.
And you got bullied, and stuff like that. That's obviously that, to me that's massive, the way you've coped with it. You've probably coped with it better than me, really.
It's one of the biggest things with dyslexia, and I think you'll agree with me that it's an annoying thing, really. You can't read us or write, and it's just frustrating. But it doesn't stop you. And even if you do lack in that, you're obviously going to have talent out there.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I just got to keep on pushing with what I enjoy.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you, and never give up hope, really.
Lee, as many of you will know, is my husband, so dyslexia is a subject close to my heart. I was really pleased when he agreed to do the film and talk about it. It's been a revealing experience for me as well, learning a lot more about how it's affected him both professionally and personally, and why getting the right support for the right people at the right time is so important.
I was asked to do this programme. It's quite a big thing for me, really. Obviously, going through my career without, ever tell anybody, and probably made so many mistakes from it, and now it's probably nice to talk about it, really. It is quite a personal thing, and I don't like to talk to anybody about it. But like I said, it's been a big part in my life, and if I can help anybody, I'll be really happy.
Nice, good call then.
I've recently just finished rugby. I think every rugby player will tell you it's been a big part of my life for the last 15 years, and now it's time to decide now really what my next step is.
Coming up next week.
We'll be hearing complaints about the standard of BT's phone and broadband service in rural Wales.
There has to be answers coming from BT as to why we are not getting service that we are fully entitled to.